Hello. My name is Lance Ash, but of course you knew that already. Okay. What a great weekend I had. Great! And I'm going to go into a little detail. Great weekend because my mental attitude is good. Now, long-time listeners to the channel know that every couple of weeks I will say, oh, I've turned a new leaf, I've made the breakthrough, oh, this is it, my God. Well, okay. This time I really have made a definite turn. I'm going to go into, like I said, I'm going to go into a little detail on this. Long time ago, when I worked in Athens, I got to a point where I had created a routine and I had established a formula for doing my work, for doing my real work, the writing, the drawing, everything. And I remember saying to myself and saying to someone, maybe my wife probably, I've got it all down. If things continue like they are, I can keep doing this forever. I've just got it down to an art, a science, a routine. And of course, not long after that, they jerked the rug out from under me. But now, after many years of struggle, I have worked my way back to a point where I can say that again. Because you might want to go to my blog for a little more context. My blog is lanceash.blogspot.com, and you can see the evolution of my cartoons over the past, my comics over the past 8 years. I used to have an online comic strip. I think I did it for 9 years. I don't know how long it lasted. But I had it down to a pat, and I stopped doing it. And then I entered the wilderness years. But now I've finally established something in my comics that is workable. And it's just going to get better because it's set up so that it can evolve. And of course it will evolve. And in a few weeks, the new issue will be ready, and it will reflect the new approach. Anyway, the point is this. When I made this new turn, it was like a key turned in a lock in my head. It was like somebody flipped a switch, and I felt a sense of relief and a sense of confidence and a sense of optimism and a sense of relaxation come over me, because that bit of struggle was over with. You've struggled to climb this plateau, and now you've reached the plateau, and we've made yet another point of progress. So the whole week, this whole past week, it was a rough week, a lot of shit at work, a lot of difficulties and shit, but in the back of all of it, in my mind, I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. It's all right, because my art is on the right track. Even the painting. I completed a shitty painting this weekend. It was substandard, but it was okay, because I realized it's part of a larger context. the painting as a whole is on the right track. Matter of fact, I started a new painting with very little preliminary work, and it just came out refined. It's, I've accepted the fact that I'm a minor painter. I've accepted the fact that I have a gimmick, you might say, or, that's his take, that's his shtick, he does this, Some people, he paints clowns, he paints big-eyed teddy bears, whatever, Anyway, so the whole weekend, I just had this wonderful, relaxed attitude. Actually got started on a new song. I haven't written a song in weeks. And it was great. It was a great weekend. Didn't go anywhere. Didn't waste a lot of time riding around, trying to get bargains. Let's see if there are any topics other than that we can go over. Wow. My mind is a blank. I can't think of anything. I hurt my left wrist, and I think it was because I played the acoustic guitar for the first time in a while. The acoustic is a totally different animal from the electric. Watched some Mighty Boosh stuff. All the episodes of Peep Show are up on YouTube, but the Mighty Boosh is just hit and miss, truncated. I wish I had a way to watch all of them. I found an article written several years ago in The Guardian, and it was lamenting the decline of the Mighty Boosh in the third season, I think, saying that it became basically too big for its own good and self-knowing and winking at the audience and so forth. But I don't mind. I think the show got better and better. The weirder it got, the more just out there, I think it was better and better. I watched early this morning. I watched the episode where the two main guys play these. There's everybody in the show plays multiple roles. And they played these two Santana-esque musicians traveling through the desert in search of the new sound. And Julian Barrett's character says, "My wife was like all women, strange and evil." It's a great line. I went down to the comment section and saw my own comment from a year ago where I quoted that line. I was into them over a year ago. Been watching a good bit of Dr. Katz too. The show is thin, for sure. But it is nice to watch. It's pleasant. It's amazing how many comments on those Dr. Katz videos. People say stuff like, I like to watch this just before I go to bed because it's very gentle. And it is. It's funny because basically the whole gimmick is that the comedians on the show are doing their material, their stand-up material, but they're doing it in a conversational therapist-patient exchange. And to me, it's funnier that way. I really don't like watching stand-up comedians because the the audience thing, but this, it's just better. I remember years ago I read Jerry Seinfeld's book Sign Language, and I'm reading it, and all of a sudden I realized this is nothing but his stand-up routine written out. I was really disappointed, but I guess what did I expect? George Carlin's books are a little bit like that, but he's got a little bit of extra material thrown in, stuff that he wouldn't normally be able to do on stage. It's funny, my kids, I think there are only 3 of them, compilations of David Letterman's top 10 list, and my kids grew up reading those. Strange that the kids would find those interesting. We used to have several Dilbert compilations, but when we realized that Scott Adams is a crazy person, we threw them away. I'd love to get those complete Peanuts compilations from Fantagraphics. God knows how much that would cost. 50 years of a comic strip. An unprecedented achievement. Unparalleled. I'm rereading On the Road for probably the 5th time. And when I look back and realize I first read that when I was, I'm going to say 13, I realized that's odd for a 13-year-old to have read that. It's odd that I read Tropic of Cancer when I was 13. 13, 14, somewhere in there. But reading it now, after many years, I can see how people at the time would have had negative critiques of it, criticisms of it. Not because of any sort of loose morals or whatever, but because there's no plot. And I'm sure that bothered some people. Or, like, what's the point of this? He goes here, he goes there. Wide-eyed observations on novelty. And at the time, it really floored me. Because when you read it as a young person, it immediately makes you think, gee, I want to get out there. I want to travel the back roads of America and see what there is. There's a green fucking light. But all the hitchhiking, nobody can do that today. Oh God, we gotta get over in the left lane pronto. Okay, Mr. Volvo, you seem to be a polyp in the highway intestines. Okay, now we got it. Yep, he's a dumbass. There's certain guys that when you're in elementary school and high school, they're just schlubs. They're just well-meaning, low-intellect schlubs. And then they become adults with wives and kids, and they're just these round-headed, just nothings. Come on, buddy, let's go. A lot of the time they'll grow a mustache, and it makes them look like, I don't know, Oh dear. Sometimes I think back on my years of being a drunk, and I can't believe some of the bullshit I did. There was one of these schlub types. It was a friend of mine. He was a would-be Christian musician, and I was over at my friend's house. They lived next door to each other, these two people. I was over at my friend's house getting drunk, and this guy was making disparaging remarks about me to my friend, like he's not a moral person, he's a bad influence on you or whatever. And I stood outside this guy's house just calling insults through the door and basically challenging him to come out so I could whoop his ass, which is totally not in my character because I'm not a violent person. I'm not a whoop your ass kind of person. Oh dear. I knew this guy years ago. He was gay, but he was also a Christian, and so he didn't want to be gay. So he had wrangled this very homely woman to be his girlfriend, and he had all these teaching materials in his apartment about how the Christian can overcome his gayness, and it was just pathetic. Oh, it was the saddest thing. Whatever happened to him. He was the manager of a music store downtown that's no longer there. I think he moved away to manage another music store in that chain. It's a famous music store chain. Don't know what happened to him. I think the last time I ever saw him was that last bender I went on before I quit drinking for a year before I got married. Oh, that was a bad weekend. It was just pathetic. It was just, there was this all-night place that I was basically hanging out in, kept going in and out of that night, and they were serving me beer past the cutoff date. I don't know why, like one bottle at a time. But anyway, this guy in there was like, not the same guy, this is a different person, was staring at me. It's like, are you okay? I'm on a bender and I can't go home. My parents are against my drinking, and if I go home, I'll have to go through DTs. They'll take my keys away and all this, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, do you have anywhere to stay? I'm like, not really. So he let me stay in his house. He had rented part of a house or something. Anyway, I got to sleep on his sofa in his living room. Beautiful old house. Maybe 100 years old. But I woke up in the middle of the night having to pee bad. Everybody's asleep and it's quiet as a mouse, if that's the right analogy. So I peed in the guy's sink. I had no choice. I was terrified he was going to wake up and catch me. Going through DTs, I never had visual hallucinations, but I did have auditory hallucinations going through DTs. But going through DTs is pretty bad. Can't sleep. It's days at a time. Everybody else is asleep, so you have nothing to do. You stay awake watching television, and it's just washing over you. you have no interest in it, no engagement with it. You're just watching something just to have something to do while you sit there and sweat and shiver. It's horrible. I've been through it many times. Oh dear. The painting that accompanies this week's video is based on a true story. Years ago, I went on a trip with a friend of mine to Richmond, Virginia. And we visited this guy who had built his parents had let him build a little studio / practice space in the basement of the family house. And he had played guitar so loud down in the basement that he'd cracked the foundation of the house. Anyway, the scene depicts. That's me squatting over that copy of Rush's Hemispheres album. All right, we're out of here. See you next week.